So you're thinking about making that move to Chicago, but you want to know how much it's going to run your pockets, right? You want to know exactly, the cost of living is going to be in Chicago compared to maybe some other big cities like maybe New York or LA. Well, you found the right video because we're going to get into it in this video. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you some frequently asked questions that our clients normally have, and we're going to answer them at the end of this video. So stick around, or we're going to get after the cost of living in Chicago right now. Let's go. If this is your first time on this channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Chicago, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market in Chicago. Hey, what's up? It's Marlon here with my team here, and we get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you looking to make that move to the city of Chicago, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, please don't hesitate. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email so we can help you make a smooth move to the city, because that's all we're trying to do. All right, so we're going to get after it right now, and we're talking about the cost of living in Chicago. How much is it going to run your pockets compared to maybe some other, top cities out there in the U.S. Okay, so to start off, we're going to start off by just comparing Chicago to kind of everywhere in the U.S. In terms of a national average, and we're going to talk about how much some of the different things cost here in Chicago and how much it's going to actually save you if you are looking to make that move to Chicago. So if that's you right now, then you found the right video. We're going to get after it right now. So I just want to start off by saying, Chicago is going to, run you really close to the national average when it comes to food and groceries. So if you are spending, on pretty close to the national average for whatever your groceries are, your milk, your cookies, your eggs, whatever that is, when you move here to Chicago, it's not going to be much of a difference. If you are paying more for those items, to say maybe another city you're paying a lot more for your eggs or your groceries, then you're going to have some savings when you go ahead and move here to Chicago, because we're going to actually only be about 5% higher than the national average when it comes to food and groceries. So that is a plus for about Chicago. The difference is if you are talking about dining in Chicago, so we do have some of the most exquisite food scenes here in Chicago, which is great. And it's lovely, but there is a sales tax that is associated with that, so you may feel that difference in terms of the food in Chicago. You're gonna be taxed a little bit more when you're dining out for food as opposed to when you're going and buying groceries at the grocery store. Okay, so we like to tell our clients that when they ask us about the difference in food and groceries here in Chicago. So remember, 5% higher than the national average for your food and groceries. There is going to be sales tax associated to dining, so just keep that in mind as well. Now, as we transition, we're going to transition to the transportation here in Chicago. And in Chicago, we have some of the best transportation. To get around the city, we have buses that go from the suburbs of Chicago all the way to the downtown area. So if you're trying to get back and forth, you don't want to take a car, the Metro is definitely a great option that you can choose, and it is a cost-friendly option as well. So we do like that about Chicago, and that doesn't cost as much as well. So we have some of the best transportation here in Chicago, but it's actually going to be about a 3% lower than the national average. So if you think about that, right, you're actually going to save some money by making that move here to Chicago if you are trying to get around as well. So the only difference here is the gas prices may be a little bit higher, but compared to some other cities like maybe LA, I know the gas prices out there are sometimes upward to $7. So out here they don't really get much higher than $4 at the max. I remember one time they were near $5 a gallon, but it's not really like that anymore. It has come down. So that is a huge plus about Chicago. If you're paying a lot for gas, you're gonna save some money by just making that move here. And if you are trying to get around using public transportation, you're gonna save more by doing that as well. So definitely keep that in mind. But that's just about the transportation. Remember, it's gonna be about 3% lower than the national average. So that's gonna be the nice thing about making that move here to Chicago. You're gonna save some money in terms of transportation and trying to get around the city or around the suburbs. All right, so to keep going to the highest and probably going to be your most expensive cost of in Chicago, it's going to be your housing costs. Now, compared to some other cities, I think Chicago is probably the most affordable option out of all of them. But in terms of the national average, the housing here in Chicago is going to be about, I believe, 20% higher than the national average. But we're going to compare Chicago to some other major cities as well. But in terms of the national average, it does cost more to live here in Chicago as opposed to maybe everywhere else in the U.S., excluding some outlier cities as well that we're going to cover here. But just keep that in mind, right? Your biggest cost is definitely going to be the housing. Now, the housing prices in Chicago, the values of the homes are around 300K plus, but the sold prices right now are around 272. Just kind of give or take, just the Chicago metropolitan area, not like including any of the suburbs of Chicago in the west suburbs of Chicago, not including them. Just like the Chicago metropolitan area, those are the median values. Now, as you kind of get out of Chicago into the suburbs, those prices can go up according to what suburb that you are in. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you check out our other videos about those suburbs so you can know how much it's going to cost for you to live there. Kind of what's available in those areas as well. But housing is definitely going to be our biggest cost. It's going to be about, I believe, 20% higher than the national average. But the great thing is that there is plentiful housing supply. So there are a lot of homes available in Chicago and in the suburbs, and they are consistently developing new areas and adding more to each and every suburb that they are developing these areas. Okay, so that is a huge plus about it. And they do like to continue to renovate Chicago as well. They they don't just let it go completely run down. Now, there are some areas to watch out for, but that is going to be your biggest expense there, but it's not going to be anything crazy. So what I like to do is I like for us to go ahead and compare it to some of these other big name cities. Now, we're going to compare it to a city in New York, and we're going to compare it to LA, California, right? So just to kind of start off, let's see what the difference is from living in LA than it is from living in Chicago. All right, so I have some over here that is going to help us kind of get into that. Compared to LA, the housing is going to be about 58% higher, right? So LA is just going to be, if you live in LA right now, you're looking to make a move to Chicago or somewhere closer to the East Coast or the Midwest, or over here, then you're going to save about 50% or close to 60% of what you're paying now by moving to Chicago. So the only thing is, a lot of people who move from the West Coast to the closer to the East Coast, they have to realize that it does get cold up here sometimes, but it's nothing that's just gonna last forever, right? And as soon as it gets back warm outside, trust and believe me, it's beautiful outside. So you're not gonna want to stay inside for more than an hour, okay? But that is something to note. And if you are looking to make that move, I definitely highly suggest it because you're going to save some money in terms of your housing and your cost of living, in terms of food, groceries, transportation, all that stuff. So if you're thinking about making a move from LA to Chicago, definitely love to show you around the city as well, show you some of our major spots as well, help you find a new home, right? So if you do already kind of know where you want to live, don't hesitate, shoot us a call, send us a text, send us an email so we can help you secure that home. But that's LA. Now, the cost of living there is about 25% higher. So, you're gonna save a quarter of your cost of living if you're living in LA and you're thinking about making that move to Chicago. So, that's just a huge plus, about that. Okay, but in terms of food and utilities, right, it's gonna save you about a quarter of your savings. Okay, so. Let's talk about New York now. Now, New York, if you don't know anything about New York, they're going to be one of the most expensive cities, in all of the U.S. to live in. And, they have many reasons for that, but they are going to be one of the most expensive cities to live in. And compared to Chicago, the housing is going to save you about 219%, right? So the housing in New York is super inflated. Right, housing prices there are crazy high, and you don't even get a lot, for your space sometimes. So you just have to, if you're thinking about making that move to Chicago, then you're definitely going to save a lot of money by doing that as well. Even if you own a home in New York and you choose to sell it and move here to Chicago, then you almost might have enough money to buy 3 houses, which is incredible, right? So, just think about that. If you're thinking about making that move from New York to Chicago, in terms of housing, you're going to save about 200% on that. So that's just incredible if you ask me. And if you're looking to make that move, we can definitely help you. But in terms of the cost of living, it's going to be about 89% higher in New York than it is going to be here in Chicago. So think about that. Almost double. You're almost paying double just by living in New York than you would be if you would live here in Chicago, in terms of food, utilities, transportation, and things like that. And we have a lot of those great things as well here in Chicago. So just keep that in mind, right? If you are thinking about making that move from New York, it's going to be about a 90% savings by transitioning and living here in Chicago. So I think that'd be great for you and your money, maybe your family. If that's a good fit for you guys, if it's not, then okay then. But if it is a good fit for you guys and you're looking to make that move and you need some help trying to secure property, do not hesitate. Please give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email so we can help you make that smooth move to Chicago without any hassle. And that transition can be very smooth, because that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to help out. All right. If you found some value in this video, please don't hesitate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can be the first to know about the current market in Chicago. And until I see you here in my city, until you visit and say hello, peace. I'll see you on the next video.